It's our pleasure to welcome Madhulika Liddle on our show today. She's edited a beautiful anthology of stories called in a book called Indian Christmas. Hello, Madhulika.
Hello, Madhurpriya. Thank you so much for having me here. It's lovely to be here and talking about Indian Christmas.
Thank you for being here. I was reading that you've co-edited the book with Jerry Pinto, and he's got a beautiful line in the introduction which says, "Unto all of us is Jesus born, into every heart in Bethlehem or Banaras." And it reminds me that Christmas is so much more than the Western perception that we have of it.
Yes, actually, one thing which I've always found really sad is that across India, in places where people don't really know what Christmas is, so for instance, people who are not Christians, they have this concept that Christmas is snowflakes, Santa Claus, lots of red and white, mistletoe, holly, all the things which are not Indian. And Indian Christmas, it's not just Christmas celebrated in India, but it is the way we Indianize Christmas. So for Indian Christians, Christmas is our festival. It's an Indian festival, it's not a Western festival. So, for instance, in Jharkhand, you'll have Christmas being celebrated with, people dancing around a sal tree, or, in Nagaland or Manipur, you'll have these community feasts where the whole village comes together and, prepares a communal feast or something like that. And it's always a reflection of our local traditions, not a reflection of what the West gave us.
And while the blurb says, it's a chutney-fied version of Christmas, but I completely understand that our Christmas is a far cry from, the roast turkeys or the cranberry sauce or the goose that we never saw, as you mentioned earlier. And which brings us to Christmas pakwan. It's so different from how people think what might be on our tables.
Yes, for instance, I have this anecdote which I sometimes share, that my husband is not a Christian, and when we got married, one of the things which he said, the first Christmas which he was celebrating with my family, he said, "Oh, there's going to be turkey, and where do you get cranberry sauce, and there will be wine." I said, "Nahi, there will be chicken curry, and there will be shami kebab, and there will be matar pulao and gajar ka halwa." And he didn't believe me, because he said, "Nahi, that is not how Christmas is." For instance, you have in a lot of India, Christmas is incomplete without namak paras or gujiyas or their sort of local variants. So for instance, in Maharashtra, you'll have faral, which is the sort of the spread of snacks and sweets. So
and while we see a lot of celebration at the clubs or on Park Street, or we know about the quintessential Calcutta Christmas, the Armenian Christmas in Calcutta or the rickshaw riding Santa Claus is as much part of Christmas as the feasts in the clubs are.
Yeah, exactly. And every city and I think every area has its own special ways of celebrating Christmas. So for instance, you have in Aizawl, which has an annual Christmas festival where there's a prize for which locality is the best decorated. If people are able to get out of the mindset that Christianity and Christmas is a Western concept, if more people realize that Indian Christians, after all, Christianity is older in India than it is in the West.
Right.
So we should realize that Christianity in India is old, and our ways of celebrating our festivals are just as old.
For many of us, in fact, it's not even Christmas as much as it's Bada Din.
Yes, exactly. It is, for a lot of, after all, there are so many Indian Christians who don't speak English.
Right.
And for them, it is Bada Din or Bodo Din or whatever you might like to call it. But it is our festival.
So I was very intrigued by your essay, Dua Ka Ghar aur Cake Ki Roti. Would you read a little from that for us, please, and tell us what this intriguing title is about?
The name of one of my essays in this book is Cake Ki Roti at Dua Ka Ghar. Dua Ka Ghar is the name which was given to my paternal grandparents' home in Saharanpur in Uttar Pradesh. because my grandparents were very dedicated evangelists. And every year at Christmas, their house used to be sort of a very welcoming and generous place for the entire neighborhood, whether they were Christians or not. They would come, they would be given lots of pakwan, and the local children would all be given gifts. And of course, there would be huge amounts of cake and namkeens and gujiyas and things made. And one of those things was called cake ki roti. Lots of people don't know what cake ki roti is, but here I'm going to explain a little bit about it. The cake ki roti was a byproduct of large-scale baking at Christmas. When you are mixing huge batches of cake batter, there's usually some left over. Not enough for an entire tin, not so little that it can be thrown away with no compunction. The baker would therefore extend this a little. Flour would be added into it and the whole thing worked into a dough. It would be shaped into a large flat disc and baked till it was golden and biscuity. The cake ki roti, like the cake, would be wrapped and stored for later. It would not be served to guests. It was too pedestrian. Even for the family's tea time treats, it would not be taken out until pretty much everything else was finished. Steadily through Advent and Christmas, past New Year, we would feast on the cake, gujiyas, donuts, namak para and more. When all of those had been eaten, the cake ki roti would finally be unwrapped and served with the tea.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Thank you for reading out the little excerpt, and I'm sure people will be very interested in knowing about how earlier when we baked, sometimes we use sand ovens. Like we speak about the pakwan, we also are so intrigued by the way the music has evolved. Dholaks and harmoniums and are as much a part of our Christmas as the piped organs are.
Absolutely. And in fact, some of my favorite Christmas hymns, in fact there are a couple of them here as well, are all Hindi ones.
Absolutely. Do you like to read a few lines from any of those?
In fact,
Gadariyon ne
dekha. This is a really nice one.
I like that so much.
This is Gadariyon ne dekha ujala adhi raat. And that is Gadariyon ne dekha ujala adhi raat, Gadariyon ne dekha ujala adhi raat. It's there's an earthiness about it. It's an affection. It's like saying Christ is our baby.
Yeah.
And I think, there's so much. I think this book is a real treasure that way, because you get a glimpse of Christmas from so many angles and sometimes from such, unexpected ways.
Thank you so much for being here, Madhulika, and for sharing with CBN viewers about an Indian Christmas and for your lovely book reading. It's really added to our Baradin celebration.
Thank you so much, and I've had a lovely time here, and I do wish everybody who's looking in, who's watching this program, a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And to all our viewers, if you have a unique way of celebrating Baradin, we would love to hear from you about it.